Hey, what's up, everybody? This is an open discussion with C3 Films. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we are talking about the Netflix movie Gunpowder Milkshake. We will be going into spoiler territory, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out, then come back and watch this video if you're worried about spoilers. But let's go ahead and just get right into it. So, this movie has a very, very cool cast. When I was looking at the cast for this movie, I didn't remember everybody. I knew mainly Karen Gillan and Lena Headey, and then get to see Angela Bassett and Michelle Yeoh and Paul Giamatti, and it's just like, oh my gosh, there's like so many cool actresses and actors in this movie. I'm kind of excited about this now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had this feeling when you were watching it, but the movie basically feels like it's doing its best to emulate John Wick. And it's like from everything to the action to the comedy that they have in the movie feels like it's like spiritually channeling the John Wick movies.
I didn't feel like it was trying to be like John Wick, but I do feel like it definitely reminded me of John Wick, but it had its
Mm-hmm.
own thing going on. To me, it felt more like a girl power kind of thing, like showcasing strong women in roles that are traditionally played by men, and
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the reasons why I really liked this movie. But it also felt like it was kind of artsy, like the way the sets, the production design, even the wardrobe, the
Yeah.
coloring, down to the cinematography, the way it was shot and lit. It was just all very stylized. It didn't feel like it was trying to be realistic. It felt like we were being placed in a different world.
Right. And that one thing about it, that different world is that we also don't actually know what time we're in as far as the year. It has feelings of evoking kind of a 70s feel, but when you're in the regular like action scenes and everything that's going on, it feels like it could be in modern day. So it's very ambiguous as far as where in like time we are, but that's not really an issue for me. I'm kind of like really enjoying the ride. And I guess one of the reasons why I felt like it was like a spiritual successor or like spiritually channeling John Wick was because of like the whole assassin like world that is built. Because that was one thing that John Wick did that no other or a lot like not many other movies had really done was kind of create a universe of assassins with rules and how they operate. And in this movie, they have, for instance, the diner, and it's a diner where assassins go to like hang out. And oh, when you come in, you have to take all your guns off. You can't have any guns. We're gonna get into that later because that diner has shows preferential treatment. And then
The
there's the
dentist.
hospital,
The dentist
and then the
is a
hospital you have to put your guns in there too.
yeah. Well, it wasn't a hospital. Well, I mean it's a hospital with the guise of a dental office, and you have to put your
Right.
gun in the tooth box, which
Yep.
apparently is very
Exactly.
heavy.
Yeah, and yeah, apparently it's very heavy. And yeah, and so you have this kind of world where these characters, they like we don't get any of this explained to us. They kind of just show up to these places and people know who they are and they know each other. They already know the rules. They don't explain it to us. We're kind of just like thrown in. And so and that's kind of the fun of the movie, right? Is in the oh, and then the library. The library where you have all these books that have weapons in them or money or anything that you might need in the self-help section. And so like in this world that they created feels very fun to be in. Like you said, it's not so concerned with realism. It's more about just creating an alternate world that you can then just play around in.
Yeah, I actually really like the library. It's a cool library. Like it had these
Absolutely.
other rooms that had like a forest theme, and then there was like a ocean theme.
It was almost like a museum, right?
Yeah, it just looked cool, like cooler than any library I've ever been to.
Yeah, exactly, right. and then of course it's filled with a bunch of assassin ladies.
Yeah.
Um, and then of course our lead actress is Karen Gillan in this movie, with her mom being Lena Headey of Game of Thrones fame. Karen Gillan from most people probably know her from Guardians of the Galaxy, playing Nebula. And in many ways, she almost felt like Nebula to me in this movie. She felt very emotionally repressed and had these awkward moments where she wants to kind of like engage in emotion but doesn't really know how to. And so it creates for a lot of funny interactions, especially with the little girl that gets introduced into the movie. But it really felt like similar scenes how you would see Nebula trying to like interact in a nice way with Gamora or with Tony Stark and being confused. So Karen Gillan can definitely play that role pretty well. But I really enjoyed her in this movie and the character that she played.
Yeah, they definitely play like the story itself is not very complicated.
Mm-mm.
It's not impressive at all. I think that this movie really isn't about that. It's more it's just kind of, another one of those, it's an action movie and the story comes second, and it's all about looking cool and having a lot of action in it, as opposed to having a really interesting story. But it does play
Right.
on her seeing this little girl, like seeing herself in that little girl and wanting like a better life for her, um,
Right.
and that kind of drives her actions. It makes her be different than what she previously was, which is what we don't really know because we didn't see her
See it.
as that. We see her changing, like from the very beginning. She already is starting to change into a different person. So that was kind of an interesting way to have a character develop.
Yeah, it was. And it's what's cool about the development of that character, I guess just in general with the story in that character, is how you see the relationships that have already been established also develop around that character. So like the I forget her name, the lead librarian, it's like Madeline or something like that. Um, she knew her ever since she was a little girl, and so she liked having her. And so this girl, you get the history that she was raised in kind of this world, so naturally she would become she would have a job in this world. But the other thing about it, they have this moment when she shows up after not being seen for a while, where she talks about who she is. Kind of, it's really interesting. It almost feels like a play in this scene. You have the three women that are looking at the guns. They're not looking at her. She's behind them. The camera's in one place, just on, and they're just talking and they're having this banter. It really felt like a play moment for me. um, but they're talking about, oh, what do you do as an assassin? What kind of assassin are you? Oh, like, are you like old school? You only kill men? And then she's like, well, no, women are fair game. And then there's this whole banter about, oh, she's a feminist, equal opportunity killer, which had me dying. I was like, okay, that was good. But she mentions that she draws the line at kids, and that dialogue can just feel like, okay, well, that just means she's not going to kill kids. But it kind of speaks to her personality and her decision making later, where it's now believable that she would risk the mission to make sure that a kid doesn't get killed, because it's in her character to want to protect kids.
Mm-hmm. Did you also notice about that scene that it was basically about 3 minutes long without a cut?
Yes. Yeah, that's another reason it felt like a play.
Yeah, and the thing that's like impressive about that is that there are four people in that scene, and just coming from a filmmaking background, you would know that, or you wouldn't know. Well, you would know, but our viewers might not know that it's really challenging to have that many people in one scene and have like the shots, like the way to frame everyone in
Yep.
different positions is challenging because it's hard to fit all those people, and then
Yeah.
the fact that they're like facing each other and moving around, and then like over the shoulder one, like one person becomes a two, and then three people, and then it moves around and becomes a two shot, and then it's just a lot of stuff going on in those 3 minutes, and it was just really fun to watch. Like, it's just all dialogue, really, and there's not even a lot of movement between the characters.
Mm-mm.
But it's cool to see the choices that they make to, like, decide how to frame everyone and which reactions they're gonna capture based on the dialogue, and it just made that one piece of dialogue so interesting because like they're just talking for 3 minutes and but it was so captivating.
Yeah, so I actually watched that scene twice,
Me too.
um, because I was just kind of curious. Because what I ended up looking at was what each person was doing. Because I'm like, okay, this is a scene that is like, I didn't time it, but it felt long. So I was like, this is a long scene. And what are these characters all doing in these scenes? And does it work? And they found a good way. You know, you have the one woman, she's looking at the axe, she starts by putting on her glasses and then polishing the axe and kind of like examining it. Michelle Yeoh, she's looking at the revolver, spinning it, examining it, and then Angela Bassett is looking at the two guns or whatever and just kind of analyzing them as well. But like, it doesn't feel like they don't have something to do. It does feel natural, and that's one of those things that really stood out to me. So that was the scene where I wrote, this feels like a play right now, and that's why it worked well for me. And so that kind of lends itself to how I felt going through the rest of the movie, that this was this was just going to be fun. This is just going to be fun, right?
Yeah, it like right after that I was like, actually not even after that, but that really sealed the deal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because it all started for me when we saw the exterior of the diner, and you can't really see like where are we, like we're
Yeah.
establishing that this is a diner, but like I don't see anything off in the distance. It's just the sky is
Nope.
colorful, and I was like, okay, we're on a set. I know we're on a set, but I don't feel bad about it. I feel like it looks cool. I like where this is going. I like how this looks. Like they're basically establishing the look and feel of the film just from
Yeah.
the exterior of the diner, and so that got me excited. And then when we got to that part in the library, it was like, okay, this is gonna be a very very visually pleasing movie to watch, and it really was. Like up, all the way to like the very very end when they're in the diner again and all the women are fighting all the guys, and it's basically a slow motion
Slow-mo panning shot.
combat pan, and it was like so, and like there's like a slow motion of like Michelle Yeoh getting sliced in the eye, and I was like, oh my god.
I was mad though. I was like, why is she the only one that took damage?
I mean, at least she didn't die.
That's true. That's true. Which, speaking of taking damage, that's one thing that I also liked about this movie, was that Karen Gillan wasn't an unstoppable killing machine. She felt human. And one of the things about characters, regardless if they're male, female, like child, adult, whatever, you want to see characters struggle because it makes the audience connect with them, and then figuring out how they are going to overcome that struggle. There's a good portion of this movie where the Karen Gillan's character can just not use her arms. And that was, I remember watching that and thinking to myself, this is a brilliant idea. This is really good, because the plan that the villains have to like, enact on her, they're successful. They take away the use of her hands, and now you're thinking to yourself as a viewer, how is she going to get out of this? How is she going to win? And so now you create this moment where your character can show how smart they are and how skilled they are. And that scene that follows, there's two scenes actually, because you think they're only going to have her not be able to use her arms for one scene. They actually do it two scenes. The one in the kind of lobby area of this kind of dentistry office where she's fighting the three guys, and then in when she has to drive a car and maneuver a car with this little girl actually being able to control the steering wheel. So all of this, I remember thinking to myself, is just this is just a great idea for getting me more invested in this character and their struggle.
I actually had a little bit of an issue with the whole part in the dentist office where she didn't have her arms, because I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so I guess the doctor said that she would lose, like she'd be like a sitting duck. So I
Yeah.
thought like she wouldn't be able to move at all. But then I was like, oh, okay. I listened back to it again, and he said that she wouldn't be able to use her arms.
Right.
But then he was yelling 60 seconds, and I was like, what does 60 seconds mean? Does that mean like
It
it's
takes
gonna
1 minute to
take
fully take effect,
to fully
is what
take
they were.
effect? See, that's what I was thinking, but she already lost feeling in her hands because she dropped the
Mm.
gun like immediately, and
Right.
then I was also like, okay, so I guess she only loses the feeling in her arms, but not her
It's not her
fingers.
fingers. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's oddly specific, but I guess he did
It
kind of say that.
Yeah, it is. And I remember thinking to myself, like, well, I mean, they could just jump in there now while she's trying to basically set up to beat them. But, the movie uses it to create tension and try to give her some, like, time to, like, figure things out. So I was like, all right, I'm already invested in this kind of silly, like, premise anyway. So I kind of want to see how this woman, like, beats these three men without the use of her arms. So I appreciated it. I appreciate it for its creativity, I guess, because I hadn't seen something like that before specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I went with it, but I was like, I questioned it. I was like,
It was the one time you were just like taking out the movie briefly,
yeah.
and now we're back.
I feel like the driving scene was more believable.
And funny thing, the driving scene for me was the one that was like that one feels a little harder to do because this little girl doesn't know how hard she should turn the wheel, and even when she's first like when they're practicing in the car before they start like rolling, she's like, "Yeah, left, right," and I'm like, "You don't want to turn the car that you don't want to turn the wheel that hard if you're like trying to just get out of the parking deck." But whatever. It was fun. It was a fun scene. So I was able to go with it and not be too bothered. But I guess the next question I was going to ask for you is like how the comedy worked for you in this movie. So like we talked about how the set design is great. There's another scene in a bowling alley that's really low lit with neon lights. It looks great. But this movie has like surprising comedy moments. For instance, I don't know if you caught this, but the guy that is wearing the vampire mask, she actually stakes him in the heart. So she stakes the vampire, and I was like, okay, guys, you're having fun, but that was not necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was humorous. I didn't think the movie was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess like by jokes, it would be kind of more about just making it kind of weird, I guess,
Mm.
um, or like the opposite of what you would normally expect. So like
Right.
same example, like it's just kind of like quirky, I guess, in a way to like have him be like have a Dracula mask on, and she ends up killing him with a stake. Like, yeah, that's like a just like a cool thing that they put in there. But like there's other stuff like the teddy bear phone and the teddy bear suitcase. Like that's not really like a thing I think anyone would really have. Maybe the suitcase is like the guy's daughter's Emily's suitcase. So that makes
Yeah.
sense, but why
It
does
was her
he
phone too, they said.
it was her phone. It was her phone.
Yeah, it was her
Like,
phone.
but like, I don't even know where do you even buy a teddy bear phone?
She doesn't even seem like the type of character that wants a teddy bear phone.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. Um, no, you're right about the quirky. So yeah, I guess it's not like flat out comedy, but it's a quirkiness. But I think the quirkiness is meant to be at least a little humorous because like in that same scene we were talking about, the people like kill each other, right? But she's like running to chase them down. But then she gets there and she basically just stands and watches them kill each other, and then the money blows up, and she's just like, "Oh well." And so yeah, there's like this. I think you picked the right word. It's this kind of quirkiness to it that is meant to like kind of surprise you, but also be like I guess mildly amusing. The dentistry thing, they're all high on laughing gas. All three of the men are like kind of hurt and hobbling to try and fight her, and she can't use her arms. So you have these two groups that aren't in the best shape right now, and they're still forcing to fight. But one guy's literally on his leg, like shooting a gun like this. It's like this is so weird.
Yeah, I feel like almost that those decisions were made to go with the world that they built,
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't really take it as a serious film because
Yeah.
it's not serious like John Wick. John Wick is like
No.
super
Well, John Wick
dramatic.
has humor too, though. Like the first John Wick movie is they have a lot of like humor built in, like even with just talking about him being the boogeyman. So, but it's not. I don't think it's as quirky as this is for sure.
Yeah, I just mean like I don't mean like that John Wick doesn't have jokes. It's like it's just a
Yeah.
different kind of film. It's like a different genre almost. Even though they're both
Mm-hmm.
action films, the way this film is painted, I feel like it's kind of like a way to it's just like the it goes with the design, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's not we don't know where we are, we don't know when we are, we don't know anything about it's just the world is differently built. At least John Wick feels like it could exist in
In our
our
universe.
time.
Yeah.
But for this movie, like I don't know where are we in time and space? This could be a different universe for all we know.
It's funny too because the world looks the same when the main character is a teenager as it does when she's in her 30s. It doesn't change even though all this time has passed. So yeah, it's like yeah, it's we could literally be in another complete like world for all we know. We don't know.
Yeah. And I just feel like this so called humor kind of goes along with it. Like, it's not meant to be like, oh, haha, that's a joke. I think it's more meant to, like, oh, this is how people behave in this universe kind
Right.
of thing. Like, there's no normal person. Even the way they talk is
Yeah.
weird. Like, it's not like a normal conversation that anyone is having in this movie.
No, not even a little bit. That's
Not
true.
even the little girl.
Yeah, and it's interesting story wise because these characters that kind of like steal the money, there's like three groups, right? There or four, I guess technically. You have the main character and her group. You have the firm. You have the gangster group that has where the son got killed at the beginning of the movie, and then you have these people that are stealing the money, and they kind of just it's kind of just all these kind of just separate forces that are just working like against each other, and they kind of just like collide, and we never even find out who the people are that tried to steal the money. We have like and because it's like it doesn't matter, they're just a force that is meant to drive the plot forward, and now we destroy they because of them the money is destroyed, and now the main character has something else to have to worry about.
Yeah. I did feel like that the end was a little weird though for me, in terms of like I just didn't know why like decisions were being made. Like why did the goal for the mob was to kill um, our main character,
Yeah.
but instead he kidnaps the girl, and I feel like there's no reason for them to do that. They just end up doing it, which is fine. It's like okay, well, I guess it's they. I guess they could figure out that she's important. So yeah, okay, kidnap her. But then they end up calling the bear phone, and I'm like, how do they know to call the bear phone?
So I thought that too, and the answer I actually wrote that down, but the answer I wrote immediately like 5 seconds later was, "Oh, it's the little girl's phone." So they could have asked her for her number.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
But
sure.
it's loose though. It's very loose because also how do they know that she has their phone has her phone? Like they would I mean they would have to say, "Hey little girl, do you have a phone?" "Yes, I have a phone." "Who has your phone?" "They have my phone." "What's your number?" "Now we're calling." It's yeah, it's weird
There's
for
a
sure.
deleted scene.
Yeah, right. It's a deleted scene. Uh, The main villain of this movie, I forget his name, but the actor, his voice is so good. He has such a good villain voice when he's speaking. It's rough and gravelly, and it's scary and it's imposing. And I really like that actor. Period. But I really enjoyed him in this movie. Just hearing him talk, I could listen to him talk and monologue for a while because it's really fun to listen to him threaten people.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Al Pacino.
Yeah, right. It's good. It's good. And don't forget, our main villain is also a feminist. He has three daughters.
That's right. But he was sad that that his only son died because he was like, now I don't feel comfortable in my own home.
Right? Like, oh, I don't understand.
I was like, that's
Um,
not feminism, but okay.
he liked having someone that got him. He did. He said he loves his daughters. He just doesn't understand them. And he liked having another man in her house that could understand him. And
And now he's gone.
no, now he's gone. Um, so that diner shows favoritism, though.
Oh
That diner
yeah.
is not neutral. It's like everyone's supposed to put their weapons in like turn them in the front. How Lena Headey and her crew all get in there with all these shotguns and stuff? Like seriously though,
Apparently only the guys have to submit their guns and weapons.
right? Like, I mean, in the beginning of the movie, it made sense because the gun was in the book and they snuck it in, so I could understand how Lena Headey got it. But like at the end of the movie, there's literally no reason, if that place is truly neutral, for them to allow a shootout to take place in in their place of business. But
Well, they are Rose's favorite customers, so that's probably why.
you know what? You right. You right.
One thing I did
So
like
yeah.
was how like going with the female strength thing, that all
Hmm.
the like books that they had that they gave her and that they point out are all female writers.
I didn't
Um,
notice that actually.
oh,
I
you
didn't know
didn't?
who all the writers were.
Virginia Woolf.
A lot of the books I knew, but there was a couple that I didn't know. So, but I didn't make the connection that they're all female writers.
Yeah, yeah. They even like named them when they were first giving it to her, and I was like, oh yeah. There was
Right,
like, here's
right.
Jane Austen, here's Virginia Woolf, and gosh, I don't remember, but like, yeah,
Yeah,
pointing that out, like the fact that I can't even remember more than two female writer names, even though they had it in this movie.
right. No, but
That's feminism.
right. No, no, that's good. Yeah, I didn't catch that. But yeah, I mean, like just in general, I think for me, I had fun with the movie. I didn't think the movie was like amazing, but I did have a good time. It's one of those movies where I'm like, I could see telling somebody, yeah, check it out if you have some free time, but I don't think anyone needs to like kind of really like you got to go see it now. I don't feel that way about the movie, but in general, I had fun with it, and so I ended it, and I wasn't upset. I wasn't angry. I was happy with my experience.
So I would say I'm actually telling people that they should watch it
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that it's very empowering for women.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the main characters are women, the strongest characters are women, and like I mentioned earlier, normally you would see men play these roles. So it's just exciting to see like women play such strong characters. And again, the story isn't special, but it looks
Yeah,
good. Even the music was really good. I love the music. The score
music
was
is fun.
amazing. And there's just so many good things about it, except for the story. The story was
Yeah,
fine. It wasn't special, but I think the concept of this movie is worth telling people that they should watch it.
for sure. Do you think that? And how do you feel about the action overall? That's like one of the last little elements. That's like the biggest part about the movie, since the story is secondary. How do you feel like the action scenes were handled?
I like them. I didn't think they were particularly special. Um,
Yeah.
I did wish that they played with the surroundings a little bit more, as opposed to just using guns and knives and beating each other up. That happened a lot.
Yeah.
I wish they used the area and the surroundings a little bit more. They did a little bit, but I think they could have made the combat scenes a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I don't feel like the combat scenes were anything to write home about. My favorite combat scene actually is with Michelle Yeoh, where she has the chain. That was really cool, seeing how she could like maneuver the chain in that fight. Like that felt creative to me. And I kind of guess I wish I saw a little bit more of that if they were going to fight in more melee combat situations, like how creative they can get. They gave Lena Headey those knives on her guns, and there were some cool things with that. But yeah, I feel like you. I feel like it wasn't anything special. It works. You can see what's happening. It's serviceable, but it's not going to be anything where it's going to be like, oh my gosh, this is like this choreography is going to like change, the next like movies that come out or whatever. It's there. It works, but not too special.
Yeah, they're not like memorable going down in
Mm.
the history books for having unique combat scenes.
Yeah, not at all. Then what would you be open to a sequel or a franchise for this movie?
Mm, I think so. Why not?
Yeah,
They could.
like that characters are interesting enough, and I would like to learn more about this world. I'm really invested in wanting to see this quirky universe that they've created. So, if they wanted to make a sequel to this movie in 2 years, I'd watch it.
I mean, I just love the cast. The cast is so awesome.
I love how Michelle Yeoh keeps Angela Bassett in check, making her breathe like woosah. And Angela Bassett is just like, I'm not gonna kill Lena Headey. I'm not gonna kill Lena Headey. It's pretty good.
She is so boss in this movie, especially when, like she was using the chains and then she jumped off the balcony. Like, what?
Yo, you got something in your hair. A tooth.
I was getting worried a little bit that they weren't gonna have any combat scenes because I think more than half the movie had already gone by and they didn't really do anything yet, and it was like is gonna be really disappointing if they don't have a really epic showdown later.
Yep, and they gave him not one but two. So the main character is not even in the final like panning slow mo sequence. So it's pretty awesome. But did you want to bring up anything else before we wrap on out of here?
Nope, that's all for me.
All right. So what about you guys? Did you see Gunpowder Milkshake? Have you had a Gunpowder Milkshake? What does it taste like? Does it taste like gunpowder? Anyway, whatever you thought about this movie or an actual Gunpowder Milkshake, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time.